Change Your POV podcast is about building confidence in your own beliefs, morals, and opinions while challenging yourself to be open, humble, and curious about things that you are unfamiliar with, don't have experience in, or straight up disagree with.
We will explore concepts and ideas that will challenge you physically, mentally, and spiritually. Personal introspection is among the greatest skill sets you will learn to hone. The foundation of your success is rooted in trust, gratitude, and forgiveness.
So join us as we explore things that we are unfamiliar with, strengthen things that we are, and are always challenging ourselves to become better.
Change Your POV podcast, where perspective is the vantage point of success. Guten Morgen.
Guten, is that Morgan? Or
Morgen.
Morgan. That's
Guten Morgen.
German, I'm assuming?
It is.
German.
You might find out later why.
Oh, nice. All right, welcome, sir, to episode. We are now
25.
On episode 225.
Yeah.
So, a quick rundown of the show. We're gonna introduce some new things that we've got cooking on the show, and then we're gonna get into chapter 4, Wolfhounds, of our book about faith.
So good.
We're gonna talk about Army-Navy game, and then we're gonna get into our topic of this week: how do we move forward in our country? Followed up by a flashback episode, kind of a open up the vault, so to speak.
Yeah,
dude.
Last week's throwback episode was awesome. I just forget. Like, I went back, I listened to the whole thing because that's what I do in my egomaniac craziness. I love to listen to myself talk.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
It's soothing. It puts you to sleep.
So my daughter said to me, "What, are you listening to your own podcast?" I was like, "Why, yes, dear, I am." And she's like, "Okay."
Okay.
It was pretty funny, though.
I can't tell you how many people have told me, like, how do you do it? I can't listen to my own voice. Because your voice sounds different on a recording.
I think my voice is awful. People love my voice. People love my voice.
Yeah.
So I've listened to everyone not my whole life, but a long time be like, "Oh, you should do radio, or you should do a podcast, or you should read audiobooks," or whatever. Like, I actually did record an audiobook this past summer.
Yeah.
It was one of those Harlequin novels, though. I got paid to do it.
A Harlequin? What the hell is that? Is
one
that
of those romance novels.
Oh, like Brokeback Mountain.
So they had me.
Brokeback
Mountain, you ass. They had me reading all sexy mannish.
I meant.
You motherfucker! Was that a Freudian slip? I think it was.
I meant 50 Shades of Grey.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going camping with you ever again. Ever, because that's the first thing that popped in your mind. Brokeback Mountain.
I said it before I even thought about it.
Oh man, see, that's what I mean. Freudian. It's right there. That was what was on the tip of your lips. That's not all that's on the tip of your lips.
You're right. Oh Jesus. Okay. So
I'm just saying. Hey, our listeners are laughing their asses off right now, so that's fine.
So in good, so like everything else in the world today, we are not only working from home mostly, but we're also recording from home. And I just need to apologize ahead of time because you're about to hear my dogs barking in the background. But
this is real. This is real life, baby. Your dogs are cute as shit too. I know you don't think so, but whatever.
No, they are. They, sometimes I look at them and they annoy me so much. I'm like, God, I wonder what they would taste like. You know what I mean?
Right. Wow, this show's getting racy right off the bat.
Yeah.
Brokeback, eating dogs. What are you, Korean now?
I
just went there. No, just kidding. Just kidding. It's all jokes, and don't take us down, YouTube. Okay, we're only kidding.
Everyone's like, I can't listen to these guys.
I can't listen to these racist sons of bitches.
So what's new, man? We've both been working very hard on separate efforts.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
So
go
one
for it.
big thing is our website. I mean, it's not perfect. It's a work in progress, but the bones of it are up.
It looks good, man. I loved it.
I think we have a good bones of it. There's a link to go listen to the podcast. And I pointed it at Shopify just because, not Shopify. Jesus, why do I keep saying that? Spotify.
It sounds close.
It does. So I pointed it at Spotify because I've been trying to listen to podcasts over there.
Yeah.
Instead of Apple. Because you know what? A lot of people can't listen on Apple. There's way more Androids. And I mean, I think you can download the Apple iPod or Apple podcast app, even on an Android. But I know a lot of people listen at I like to listen to Overcast too. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Why I do this, I don't know. But I have 4 different places I listen to podcasts.
That is weird.
Isn't it? So it's I'll listen to certain ones on Apple. I think maybe it's because they're kind of up all the time.
Right.
Does that make sense? Instead of having to scroll through and find the episodes I want, I have certain things set up certain ways. So if I want to listen to Rogan, I go to Spotify. Mm-hmm. If I listen to Tim Pool, I go over to Apple. If I want to listen to Jocko, I listen to Jocko on Overcast and Lewis Howes. I listen to both of them over there. You know what? Because they do
It's more like vlogging, right?
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
Kinda?
Yeah. So on Spotify, you can watch Rogan and listen to him both.
Right.
So it's kind of neat. I don't know. And stuff's getting crazy since we started. I mean, I was just thinking about this because I was doing one of our descriptions, which I have to expand on. We've been doing this since 2015, bro.
Yeah.
And I've been podcasting since 2013.
Right. Even with Cigars and Sea Stories.
Maybe 2012.
God, you Cigars and Sea Stories had 150 episodes before you and I even started.
Correct.
Your POV.
And when we finally ended it, it was 303 episodes.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of content, man.
It's 303 hours.
Wow.
So then the other thing that I went through, I was reading this article. This is just kind of us talking about this stuff. So a gentleman that I like to read his article of is Matt Taibbi is his name. And it's he's a real journalist. So you get the whole story, whether it's good, bad, left, right, you know what I mean? You get it from all angles. And he was talking about, what's going on with the election and whatnot, but he brought up a blast from the past, Evan McMullen, who ran for president back in 2016 as an independent conservative, right? And almost won the state of Ohio. He's from Utah. Okay. He's from Utah. He is, I think he's Mormon. Not that it matters. I think he's Mormon. But that makes sense with Utah and the Mormon population, right? But we interviewed him on Cigars and Sea Stories.
Right. I remember that.
And it was me, Parkhurst, and Penny, I think. All 3 of us got to interview him. We were this close to interviewing Trump, too.
Really?
Yeah, we reached out to all of them. Because at the time, I mean, we had a pretty robust listenership, Right. So... Because, to get these guys on, we had to show them, our numbers to make it sure it's worth their while.
Yep.
Yeah, and Trump, his campaign had agreed we just couldn't come together on a half-hour block of time.
Oh, wow.
Before it was too late. And we really couldn't just make it. It was heartbreaking. But either way, just saying.
That would have been a great show.
And we never heard from Hillary's campaign at all.
Right. She's like, what's a podcast?
What's a podcast? But either way, I would have loved to interview her too, man. I mean, any of it.
Absolutely.
It would have been cool. Let's have a real civil discourse here about things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Have a real presidential debate on a podcast.
Well, that's what they were trying to do. Rogan was like, "Yeah, I'll moderate a podcast."
Right.
Joe Biden, Trump, and me. That's it.
Right.
Nobody else. Nothing else. Let's do this. You want to have a long form. I mean, and he was blocking out 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Could you imagine that as a debate? That would have been amazing.
Right.
As long as Trump wouldn't have gone off like a fire-haired crazy person. Seriously.
Yeah.
And he would have pushed Biden to a point. It would have been like celebrity deathmatch.
Right, exactly.
Which everyone has been asking for that for years too. Put these two in a. You remember that show on MTV?
Yeah, I do.
Celebrity Deathmatch. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So I've been doing that. The website's together.
Yep.
We will be expanding it as it goes. We also signed up, and I'll let you talk about this. A cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, let me talk Anchor real fast.
Oh, Anchor.
We are migrating the show from Libsyn over to Anchor for several reasons, and eventually,
What's
right
the real
now,
reason?
So the real reason is, well, at the end of the day, Anchor allows us to have more flexibility with sponsorships.
Yes.
It allows us to put in sponsorships where we want them. Libsyn, I don't know, there's just a lot of really tight rules around it, and I just don't like the way that the monetization is structured.
Well,
and
because if your shit don't stink, it's kind of like it's classist.
Right, it is. And, for the listeners, just keeping it real, this show does cost money to put on, right, to produce. And Libsyn, right now, it's caught with our format, with our long form format, 2 hours-ish, an episode releasing weekly. It costs between $70 and $80 a month.
That's just for bandwidth.
That's just bandwidth for the show, right? That doesn't count the website hosting fees and other things, right? So it does cost money to
on top
put this
of
on.
it, your time.
And right, yeah. But this is to me, this is what I was explaining to somebody else. Why would you be willing to put that much time and money and effort into something like that? I was like, well, because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't go out and I don't gamble. You know what I mean? I don't spend my money on all the nothing against people that do, but that's not what I find entertaining. I spend my time and money on things like podcasting and
books and
books and audiobooks. I mean, that's just my thing.
And then
That's
sharing
what I like
that
to do.
stuff, right?
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind it, but eventually we would like the show to, at the very least, pay for itself, right? So it's net neutral, right? Net zero.
Frankly, once we switch over to Anchor, it will be net neutral.
Right, exactly, and that's the goal. And I think eventually, once I get right now, and it's a manual process to upload each show individually, which I've been working on.
Holy Christ! I'm so glad that you're doing that because
and it's taken 4 days, and I've moved over I think 50 shows at this point, and we got a couple hundred more to go. So
only a couple hundred more.
Yeah. So it's going to take a little while, but eventually we're going to get the link. If you go to the website right now, changeyourpov.com, it will take you to Spotify, as you mentioned, but eventually that will direct everybody to Anchor.
Which technically is owned by Spotify.
Correct. So we ultimately want people to be listening on our show, wherever you can get your podcast, ultimately. But we want it to essentially stem from Anchor. That's where we want.
Correct. It'll still be everywhere else. You'll still be able to get it everywhere.
Right.
I think we have, right now we're currently on 10 platforms or something like that. 8, 10.
Yeah, right.
So either way.
Yeah. So also, in addition to the new website that came up this weekend, we got this new talking about deferring costs and also giving our listeners a way to give back. And this sounds a little hokey, but to be honest with you, we've had several people, listeners of the show, reach out and say, "Hey, we love what you do. Love listening to you guys. I'm glad you're back on the show. How can I give back?" Right? And the people are just looking for a way to essentially just leave a tip.
Tip or donate to the show, whatever you want to call it.
And there's been several different things that we've tried in the past relative to this, but this one is really cool. You want to talk about it?
It's called Cup of Coffee.
Yeah.
And it's so we had been up on Patreon. Is that the only one that we really tried?
There was a couple.
I think that's the only one we went live with, though. The other ones were just it was weird. So a lot of these things have weird fees and things like that. And frankly, they'll charge, people make a donation, but they'll charge them a fee to. I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I want somebody to be able to just leave a tip or buy a cup of coffee. So that's kind of the idea of this.
Right.
Buy us a cup of coffee. And it's literally that. There's no fuss, no muss. You just go in our website. It'll also be on. So in our website, you'll see buy us a cup of coffee. If you go into our Facebook page, you'll see it'll be pinned to the top of the Facebook page, buy us a cup of coffee. And then on our Instagram page, we have what's called a link tree in the bio. So click in the bio and you'll see buy a cup of coffee, and go in, donate $5. I think $5 is the minimum.
Yeah, that's the minimum.
And then move on with your day. If you feel like we're adding value to your life, and I'm not asking you to do it monthly. I'm not asking you to do it whatever. Just if you feel like you would like to support us, then there you go.
What I like about it is I tried it yesterday. Once you had it up on the site, I went in and I did it myself, and I actually paid for our cup of coffee this morning. And
I cannot do that myself. I tried to, but it won't let you pay yourself or buy yourself a cup of coffee.
Right, if you're the creator,
right.
yeah. Yeah, so I went in there. It's super simple. It connects right to PayPal, connects to Venmo. I was actually able to just buy a $5 cup of coffee through Venmo. It was super simple.
Now, which do you prefer, PayPal or Venmo?
I don't mind. I'll do either one. Like, I have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. I've got several.
PayPal owns Venmo, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know if people know that. People don't know because it's I think Venmo's simpler.
That's the thing, and that's why I have multiple, because it really depends on who I'm giving money to. Because some people are like, oh, I don't do Venmo, I only have PayPal. Or some people would be like, a lot of the younger, not to paint people in age boxes, but a lot of younger folks, like my son, for example, and my daughter, they're like, yeah, Venmo's the way to go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how
Cash
I got
App's
set up
cool
on Venmo.
Too, though.
It is. I like Cash App.
Cash App's just as simple as Venmo is as well. And what's cool about Cash App, I'm not doing a Joe Rogan Cash App commercial
sponsor spot,
but I buy both Bitcoin and stocks through there. I just put I literally do $20 a month, and I kind of just play around.
Yeah.
You also use Robinhood, correct?
Well, I used to until you turned me on the Cash App.
Yeah,
so now I
gotcha.
do.
I do have a Robinhood account too,
because
I can invest in things on Robinhood that you can't invest on Cash App. But either way, anyway,
it's interesting. So anyway, so go in. Well, what I like about the Buy Us a Coffee is a lot of people want to people like donate or tip, but they're not crazy about like a reoccurring. So this is not
right. Like Patreon is like you
thing.
Can do the single stuff, but you got to sign up for a whole account. You got to do all this stuff. This you don't have to do any of that.
Yeah, it's simple, easy. Just go in, boom, pay for a cup of coffee, and it's slick. I like it, man. And so it's really, really cool. I enjoy it a lot. I think that's a great addition to the show.
Well, just because we literally, and I'm looking right now. So I just literally posted it yesterday.
Yeah.
And we've already gotten, technically 2 donations because you don't count.
Right, I don't count.
So it's called Buy Me a Coffee.
Very cool.
And check it out.
Another thing about Anchor, I forgot to mention when I was talking about Anchor, is you can go to anchor.fm/changeyourpov, and it'll take you to the Anchor page. And right there's a link that says message. So you can actually click on it, leave like a 30-second. I think it records up to a minute, I believe. But anyway, you can record just straight from your phone.
Leave us feedback.
And you can just leave us a comment. So you can leave us, record a comment, feedback. What do you like about the show, a particular episode? Maybe you want to weigh in on a topic that we covered. It doesn't matter. Just
tell us we suck, whatever.
Right. Leave us a voice message. And what's really cool is those voice messages get stored into our Anchor account. And then I can pull those audio clips in when we release the show. And we can actually do voices from our listeners.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to hear yourself on the show. I think that's pretty cool.
So let me give you this as like a real promo, right?
Yeah.
So
go for it.
buymeacupofcoffee.com Change Your POV. That's where you go. If you want to buy us a cup of coffee. buymeacoffee.com/change your POV.
buymeacoffee.com/change your POV. Cool. I like it. Very slick, man.
It is.
So, it's a lot of great work being done, kind of reconstituting everything, introducing
and
new
frankly,
things.
folks, we're trying to monetize the show too. I mean, if I'm being honest, we just went through all that, and so it's fun. Yeah, it's fun to do this stuff too. So
it is fun. Yeah, and
plus,
eventually we're going to have gear, right?
Yeah, so we'll have some swag as well. Which actually, when we had swag before, we sold a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Which was surprising, to say the least. So, yeah, we'll have the usual, the huge bullshit swag, t-shirts, sweatshirts. I saw one of my daughters. So my daughters steal all my sweatshirts.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter that they're freaking 2X, right?
That's probably why they steal them.
And
so they put them on, and they're
gigantic to them. They're huge, but
right.
but I mean, they don't. It's just one of the things now, you know. Yeah. So, so I had two Change Your POV sweatshirts.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Nice.
So one's gray, one's black, and one kid's got one, and then they pull them over like Warrior Hall. Those are gone. Battle Sight are gone. Like everything, every sweatshirt I own. I have to go hunt for one if I want to wear it. My old CrossFit gym, all that stuff. Just crazy, man. It's really funny. But so the regular swag, coffee mugs. I actually have a Change Your POV coffee mug.
Oh, and
in my office. In my office.
Pretty soon, April 4th, every year we do the 444.
Yeah, the Black Sunday Challenge.
The Black Sunday Challenge, and I've actually had some people reach out like last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago now, but they're like, "Hey, what are we doing this
Yeah,
this,
I mean, we
year?
did do it last year, but it was we kind of half-assed it.
Well, it was right when the pandemic
when COVID
came.
went crazy. Yeah, so
it was like right in the middle. Like April 4th is when it, March, middle to end of March is when COVID happened.
I think we need to
April.
approach this one as like a get out of your home after this, like nuclear winter that we're
right.
about to go through, and get outside and ride your
right.
bike or walk or run or do whatever. So we'll go over that some more too. But the Black Sunday Challenge is good stuff, man.
Yeah,
it'll wear your ass out, but it's good. So.
Yeah, and you were talking about merchandise, and we had some stuff for that last year, and then it
the patches are great.
Yeah, we had to. Well, the slogan is "Shoot 'em in the face," right? And
we had to kind of ease up on that a little.
They're like, one guy reached out. He's like, "I have children. Can we maybe get a patch without "Shoot 'em in the face" in there?" I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. All right, man. Let's get into Wolfhounds, Chapter 4, About Face. This is a bit of a lengthy chapter, if I do say so, but this is an important one, I think, because amongst everything else that was going on, this chapter also covers his battlefield commission from sergeant to lieutenant, which really kind of changed his trajectory, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of how he led as a leader, as an officer, versus led as an NCO. But anyway, I'll let you kick that off with our, what do you call this? Like our intro?
Yeah, well, it's
chapter?
like so every chapter has a I guess you could call it a quote, but it's a statement written by somebody that served with Hackworth.
Yeah. It's almost like a mini forward for each chapter.
Yeah,
kind of.
So he had a unique trait of courage about him, which was kind of amazing to us. I'm not saying there weren't others too, but Hack just exhibited this day after day. And we were in a pretty tough situation. There was a lot of confusion. We were fighting the Chinese, the North Koreans, and the elements. Cold as shit, right? Yeah. So it was important to have Hack around to give everyone the spark that was needed to keep going and add a little humor, too, when we need that. Sometimes he did things that I would consider crazy, but it always sparked us. It really did. He was a fearless type individual, but I think the reason was he always felt that Lady Luck was riding on his side, and that she always would. Sergeant Major Walter Schroeder, U.S. Army retired. He was a squad leader, a platoon sergeant, and it looks like he got battlefield commission too. Platoon sergeant, G Company, 27th Infantry, Korea, 1950 to 51.
Wow.
So how was he a platoon leader if he... Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he
Doesn't
was like
matter. Maybe he was acting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Sergeant Major retired.
A lot of lieutenants didn't pan out. In the
Maybe.
War, as it turns
Maybe
out.
he got busted back down to private. Who knows?
Right.
I'm just kidding. Anyway.
So the 27th Infantry, or Wolfhound Regiment, was a colorful unit itself. The outfit had gotten its name during the stint fighting communists in Siberia during the Russian Revolution. In Korea, the Wolfhounds were known as the, quote, fire brigade, because whenever there was trouble, they were sent in to save the day. They weren't a special unit, I love this, just a group of guys who thought they were good, and so they were good. Imagine, because you have you're essentially your elite troops of the time were arguably the Rangers, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which Hackworth, right,
Yeah.
which Hackworth served in prior to moving to the Wolfhound. He was in the Ranger Regiment. But he ended up moving to the Wolfhounds and found...
doesn't it say it in this? 8th Rangers?
Yeah, right, exactly. And he
because
found that
right there right there at the top, not to cut you off, it says,
Go for it.
Any man who goes wild enough to go AWOL to fight is just the kind of man we want in our outfit, said Captain John Paul Van when I stopped at his 8th Ranger camp, fresh from my breakout from 25th Recon Company. So when at the end of the last chapter, remember, he walked away.
Right.
He was like, screw this. You can mark me AWOL, but I'm not fighting with you cowards.
Right.
And
exactly.
so he walked right over to 8th Ranger camp.
Right.
So
and
anyway.
then ended up bouncing and going to the Wolfhound.
Right.
So this guy this guy, I don't think you can get away with that today, but he literally would just go from
Kidding me?
one unit to the next unit until he found where he needed to be. And it shaped him, it shaped who he was at the time, and it also shaped him as a leader going forward. But he just, he didn't settle, man. He didn't wait for someone to guide and direct him. He went and found it himself. He's a very scrappy guy, man.
Yeah. And the Ranger Bats, the current Ranger, their mission's a little different now, but
right.
But yeah, we know a lot of Rangers.
Right.
So
this one, I highlighted this because this just shocked me, but didn't. It shocked me because it didn't shock me. Ready? Listen to this. One day, a snap thaw had us wading through mud on both sides of the mire that had once been a road. Jeeps and trucks sloshed through it too, each vehicle trying in vain to miss the rut of the vehicle in front so not to become bogged down. One Jeep stalled and would not restart just as our column was passing by. The driver and a lieutenant passenger unasked the thing. The lieutenant called for help to push it over to the side, but before we could slosh through the quagmire and give him a hand, he whipped out his pistol and aimed it at one of the tires. I figured his daddy must have been an old horse soldier, and this guy was going to follow the Cav tradition of shooting his disabled mount. And sure enough, pow, 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 the last shot missed the tire. It glanced off of the rim and boomeranged back to strike the lieutenant right between the eyes. We pushed the Jeep and the warm, still body off the road and then returned to our column. Soon the temperature dropped and the road turned to ice, and we just kept on heading south. It hadn't meant anything. The lieutenant's death, for openers, we hadn't done. What he'd done was dumb. But more than that, we'd become immune. Fighting was on the ground is like working in a slaughterhouse. At first, the blood and gore gets to you, but after a while, you don't see it. You don't smell it and you don't feel it. So what's another dead body? It's almost as if you don't care. In this case, we just leaned forward, kept walking, and tried to ignore the song in our heads that one troops called the Bug Out Blues. And I've never heard that song, but it's just, I when I first listened to that on the audiobook, I was just like, damn. You know what I mean? The fact that he just died that way, and then for them just to push the body off the side of the road along with the Jeep, that's cold, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, there's also a story of him stabbing himself in the ass.
Right.
Which he didn't stab himself. He stabbed his pants.
Yeah.
Because he thought they were
Chinese.
Chinese. Oh, well, as he called them, a chink.
Yeah, well, he slipped and fell in the rice paddy and the
everything got all wet.
Well, they use human feces to fertilize the rice
Jesus
paddies,
Christ,
right?
Yeah, so it's the shitty pants. His shitty pants that I had to put back on.
Yeah.
So he ended up bayoneting his own frozen trousers that he had hanging up in the ass with his bayonet. And so now he had to put his shitty trousers back on with a hole in the ass that he created himself.
Now, mind you, he just got to the Wolfhounds.
Yes.
So no one knew him.
He's a fucking
the
new
guy, right? He hasn't proven himself, and this is the way he basically comes
and
to
his foxhole buddies covering him as he's assaulting his own pants.
That's crazy. So Captain Mike Lee was essentially the company commander of the unit, and Mike Lee had a pretty profound impact on him in his development. As you read through the book, Mike Lee was a foundational leader for Hackworth, and it says that Mike Lee was cold. This is part that I found interesting about Mike Lee. He was cold as ice. He exhibited little emotion. The worst things were on the battlefield. The calmer his voice sounded on the radio. Later, he said that as cool as he was on the outside, inwardly, he'd churn. Quote, I learned in World War II, he said, that the slightest bit of excitement in a leader is transmitted to the men. You might be afraid, but the fear gets magnified in the troops. Somebody has to keep his cool. If you're a decent leader, you don't dare lose it. If for your own good, you've got to keep your unit up there doing its job. So he was really kind of known for just being the calm on the battlefield over the radio, and when everything else was just going to shit, he just maintained his bearing through it all. Mm-hmm. And that really became very important to Hackworth. But I think listening to a lot of Jocko's podcasts and listening to his audiobooks of his two books, Extreme Ownership and Dichotomy of Leadership, he even mentions this. And I think he used that quite a bit in his combat operations in dealing with the SEALs, is just keeping that calm, steady voice. When shit just hits the fan, somebody has to be that voice of calm, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool, man.
For sure.
Great chapter. That's real. I mean, I could have highlighted a lot more, but I knew we were limited on time. That's really all I wanted to bring to the table with regard to.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's there's so much to cover. It's kind of like we could sit here and do an entire episode on that. But
I know,
man, if we haven't said it before, which I know we have, it's just such a good book. Like, I totally understand why Jocko. This is like his, Bible. To an extent, because they go in such in depth too, where they talk about the tactics, and they didn't have the technology back then, so it's like those are real infantry tactics. Like it's not, and it's a lot of like improv going on the fly, right?
Well, it's a lot of what the infantry learns today. Was being initially created by them back then, right?
Just unreal. So the book is so good.
That brings me, I was thinking maybe we should put a link to the book on the website and just kind of have it
for sure.
Like whatever book we're covering at that time, we'll just change the link, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
now to move into our next segment.
Army-Navy.
Military news, Army-Navy game. All right, so I did a little bit of research on Army-Navy game just because I find it interesting, and I thought maybe I'd share. So here's some facts that many people may not know about the Army-Navy game, as many are listening to the show today. Yesterday, at the time of this recording, on December 12th, the Army and Navy played each other. And what was that final score there, Bennett?
Oh, well, last night? Oh,
yeah.
Shit. I think it was 15-0 Army.
Army swept it, right? It was brutal. All right.
Is that what it ended up as? Because for some reason, I had to go. I was cooking dinner last night, and I missed the last 3 minutes or something. So I don't know if Navy scored or not. But either way,
no,
it was 15-0, right?
Yeah, it ended up in a shutout. Yeah. Yep.
Wow, because they got their ass kicked last year. Navy kicked Army's ass last year. But either way, whatever.
So here we go. Cadets and midshipmen played the first Army-Navy football game November 29th, 1890, on the plain at West Point. And Navy had been playing organized football since 1879 and defeated the newly established Army team 24-0. Now that's back in 1890,
that's
right?
Crazy.
First game. Now get this. The 271 members of the Corps of Cadets each contributed 52 cents to pay half of the Navy's traveling costs for the 1918 game. Now, if you take that's 271 cadets times 52 cents, that comes to $140, and that's half of what it costs to travel. So that was $280 total dollars, and I looked it up. $280 in 1890 comes to about $8,000 in today's money, right?
Wow.
So that's a good amount of money that they raised. So the cadets ended up raising $4,000 essentially to get their team traveling costs paid. Pretty cool. Although today we know the game as an annual tradition, and it has been since 1930, there have been 10 times when the Army-Navy game was not played. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. It said that the longest interruption, which lasted from 1894 to 1898, came about after an argument between an Army general and a Navy admiral almost resulted in a duel following the 1893 games.
Mm-hmm. A duel. God knows I love it. I love it.
The game also wasn't played in 1909 that year. Army canceled its remaining games after Cadet Eugene Byron died from an injury sustained in an October game against Harvard. Twice during World War I, first in 1917 and then in 1918, games were canceled on orders from the War Department, and in 1928 and 1929, the academies could not reconcile player eligibility standards. Mm-hmm. And then on November 27th, 1926, the game was held in Chicago for the formal...
Of all things, Chicago.
Right. For the formal dedication of Soldiers Field in honor of the American servicemen who had fought in World War I.
Yep. And Army, it was a tie, wasn't it?
I think that was a tie.
Yeah, it was 21-21 that year, I think.
How
do you end in a tie?
Right, right. Going into both 1944 and 1945 games, Army and Navy were ranked number 1 and number 2, respectively. Army won both games. Next fact about the Army-Navy games. The tradition of mules as mascots for Army dates back to 1899, when a quartermaster officer decided the team needed a mascot to counter the Navy goat and chose a white mule that was used to pull an ice wagon.
It's kind of funny. Now it's a black mule, basically, but anyway. Or it's just a mule.
A mule, yeah. However, the first official mule was a former U.S. Army pack mule named Mr. Jackson that arrived at West Point in 1936. Since Mr. Jackson, there have been 17 official Army mules. Buckshot, the only female of the bunch, arrived at West Point in 1964, a gift from the Air Force Academy.
It's kind of ironic, right?
It does, right? Today, 3 mules serve as Army mascots: Raider, Ranger 2, and General Scott. And this article is a few years old, so those mascot names may be different today. Instant Replay made its American debut in the 1963 Army-Navy game. And get this one. Here's a funny one. In 1973, an episode of MASH referred to a fictional Army-Navy game that ended 42-36 Navy. To this day, no Army-Navy game has ever ended with that score. And the radio announcer in the episode says that the game is the 53rd Army-Navy game. That game was played in 1952, and Navy won 7-0.
Right.
And here's another one. The Rose Bowl is the only site west of the Mississippi River to host the Army-Navy game. It did so in 1983.
Wow.
So here we go. Only 6 Army-Navy games have been held on the campus of either academy. 2 of those games were during World War II. One in 1942 and the other in 1943. And then the 7th game to ever be held on a campus was yesterday's game.
Yeah, at West Point.
At West Point.
And it was because of restrictions in Philadelphia.
Yeah. So there you go. So we played, and you know, some could
and
say
they played
that,
in New York City a few times, but mainly it's been, over the years, it's been Philadelphia.
Right.
Which is very neutral. It's literally right in the middle of West Point and Annapolis. So
do you think the home field advantage gave them an edge?
I don't know. Army's just a better team this year.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So here's this one. I like this one. Following each game, players sing both teams' anthem, alma maters. The winning team joins the losing team and sings facing the losing team's students. Then the losing team joins the victors on their side of the field and sings the winning's alma mater to its students. This act is a show of mutual respect and solidarity. Pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And President Trump did the coin toss yesterday.
Yeah.
That was kind of neat to watch. I think he's tossed the coin every year that he's been president.
Yeah, I think so.
If not, it's been at least 2, because I watched him do it last year and this year. So,
So this year, really quick, one of the things every year is a big thing, at least today, is the uniforms.
So
like uniform reveal, right?
Yep.
So this is kind of an interesting. This year, Army released its Tropic Lightning.
Yeah, the 25th ID, baby.
Exactly. So the uniform to honor the 25th Infantry Division during the Korean War. Among their division, the Wolfhounds.
Speaking of the book, right? I thought it was quite funny.
Struck fear into the enemy with their ferocious fighting nature in combat. The Wolfhounds live up to their motto with no fear on earth mindset. So very well tied in. Very well played, sir.
The electric strawberry.
Yes.
That's what they call the patch.
Right.
It's a taro leaf, but it's a lightning bolt superimposed on a taro leaf, but they call it the electric strawberry.
Yeah, and
but how about those gloves? I love how they do the gloves. So they have like pieces of the logos on each glove. So when they do like the hand thing,
put their hands together. Yeah.
Yep. So that was cool. It was the 25th Infantry this year for the Army, but the Navy. What did they have? I don't think they had anything specific, but their uniform was badass.
Yeah, they go all out every year. I think it's really cool.
They had, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the midshipmen, I think they wear, depending on what branch they've chosen. So, like, I know, like, a Marine Corps, I don't know if every single player had the Marine Corps insignia on their pants, like, right below their waist. Like, one side's got an Under Armour and then the Marine Corps emblem, but I don't know if that's on every single player.
Oh, I see.
Because I saw a couple uniforms that had Marine, like the 4th Marine Division, 2nd Mardiv was on one guy's shoulder. You know what I mean? So they had the different unit patches, and then some of them were, Navy units. So I don't know if what the significance is to the patches on if it's obviously it's significant to naval service in general,
Right.
but what if it has any significance to individual players? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Like maybe that's the unit they're going to, or
Yeah.
see, officer stuff is all different. So I don't know exactly how. I know that they get to choose a branch, but that doesn't mean they get to choose where they're going, obviously.
Right.
So
maybe I'm just impartial, but I really enjoyed the Army uniform over the Navy this year.
Yeah.
Especially enjoyed the little Wolfhound on the on the shoulder pad area.
Yep, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And last year was kind of cool because it was 10th Mountain.
Yeah, a couple of years before that was first cab.
Yep. So I watched the coming out when they come out of the chute. They usually play the bagpipes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They play the Army song on bagpipes.
Yeah.
And that was a year. One of that year that I saw that was first cav. So
yeah,
it was pretty cool.
I would love. Have you been to an actual live game of these?
Yeah, I've been to a few of them.
Oh man,
Its energy is like ridiculous.
Yeah, I wonder how many years in advance you gotta.
We should probably talk to Adam Bird.
Oh, dude, yes, dude, we gotta go one of these years for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
if anyone would know how to go, it'd be him.
Right. Yeah.
I just happened. Friends got tickets. You know what I mean? They're like, "You want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah."
You're like, it doesn't bear shit in the woods.
Right. Exactly.
How do we move forward in our country today, sir?
Good Lord. That's a deep topic, right?
It is. Well, why is moving forward difficult today?
Well, I feel like
I'm
pretty sure our country hasn't been more divided in a long time. I mean, there's always a division. There's always a underpinned or undertone of division because you have teams, right? You got the red team and you got the blue team. And sometimes there's a little yellow team sprinkled in on that, But as it stands, we have a two-party system that pits us against each other, right? And some people
best system, do we think?
I don't think so. That's just my opinion, though. So this is a very opinion piece thing here.
Right.
Well, it is. I mean, we all have opinions.
Yeah.
We all have opinions. They're like assholes, and they all stink.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I read this article, and I'm trying to pull it up right now, that talks about moving forward, right? So the first one really is we have to be able to discern opinion from what is actually happening, right? Because we literally have two realities going on right now, like side by side. You have people on the left and you have people on the right. There is crossover from here to there, but a lot of times, literally, you have two distinct realities where, like, President Trump is getting screwed. He won the election. And the other side is Biden won, just shut up.
Right.
I subscribe to neither. Just for everyone's take on my opinion, and you can give yours too, Eddie, if you want. I think Joe Biden is going to be our president. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yep.
He's going to get inaugurated because, again, if there's widespread voter fraud, Trump's team and Trump himself have not put forth the evidence to make it so. Just because you say it loud enough and long enough doesn't mean it's real. Yeah. But that goes for both sides. The other side has been calling Joe Biden the president-elect for 2 months. Not 2 months, a month. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he even has his own seal. That's not a real thing, people. The seal of the president-elect Joe Biden. Like, that's not a real thing. Like, you're making up your own reality. No, I've never seen that with any other inauguration, right? I can't handle the do as I say, not as I do crap that happens with all of this stuff. Like, literally, they've been, the left has been yelling Russian collusion. They impeached Trump, right? All these things for the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Saying all these things. I mean, never really ever giving Trump a chance to lead. He always had this sidebar of having to battle things, right? Never given a clear lane to just lead. Could never get credit for doing anything right, no matter what. And regardless of whether you agree with him or not, the man has done some good things in office. I mean, shit, he just signed another historic peace agreement between Israel and Morocco the other day. He's actually been nominated for 5 Nobel Peace Prizes, and people are like, whatever. Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing. Literally, right? Are you still there?
I am. It depends on if you're now if you're an Obama fan, right?
Correct.
Or a supporter.
Correct.
Then I'm sure that those people can make an argument that he did some amazing things.
Well, and you know what? I don't disagree with that either. So I'm putting it out there. Because I see I'm an anti-bully person. And
right.
I can see, yes, people will be like, well, Trump's a bully. Yeah. There's a lot of things that he's done in his life where he's been a bully, right? But right now, all I see is the piling on, right? And I was not in favor of the piling on that the Republicans did on Obama for his 8 years, too. Like, let the man do his job. You might not agree with how he does it, but let him do it. He was duly elected as the president of the United States, right? It turns out, now, here's the thing. I don't like so we had the birther thing going on during Obama, which I was like, Jesus Christ, like they stretched that out forever, right? So it's like, this is like the retaliation for the birther thing, right? Because Trump financed a lot of that too.
Right.
But we can't, it's when does it stop is basically what I'm saying.
Well, but how much of that shit did Trump bring on himself, though?
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think because to your point, right, when you're talking about just let them give the man room to breathe and let him lead, it's like how many times should he have been leading, but instead he's laying in bed at night on Twitter, like blowing everything up. Like I just don't understand his thought process. It's like he constantly is stirring up the hornet's nest at every opportunity just for fun. To me, his 4-year presidency was an extension of his TV show. What was it?
Right. The Apprentice.
The Apprentice. And it was just I think it was a popularity contest. I think it was a social media grab. I honestly, I don't know, man. I don't think he ran for president or served as president for the true interests of the American people. I think he just did it for himself,
right?
Personally,
and that very well may be the case, right? And every president,
but he did. You're right. There are some things that I thought he did well. I mean, you look at a lot of the military activity. I mean, he shook things up, man. And you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like people like he's the first president in recent times that hasn't got us more involved in any more conflicts. He's actually brought troops home.
Right. Why
he's done it that way, I don't know.
Right.
But he also, as a military person that sees how for a long time, like almost my entire military career, I felt like my hands were tied. when I was in theater because of rules of engagement and everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But with Trump, that wasn't the case. And that's how all of a sudden, remember, we left Iraq, and who moved in? ISIS, right?
Yeah, sure.
They took back so much stuff in Iraq. Now, Trump came back into power. Where's ISIS now? Because he took the leash off, basically, and let the military do their jobs. So in that case, from a military aspect, I think it was pretty positive. The stuff with the peace accords, great. The economy until COVID hit was raging. Unemployment was good, but again, we can go through those numbers. Doesn't matter, regardless. Okay, Joe Biden becomes president. How do we move forward? Because you're going to have a lot of angry people on the right that will be just like the left. That's not my president.
So it's going to be another 4 years, but it's going to be exactly flip-flop the other direction.
Right. And he's going to do all, it's going to be, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's not necessarily going to be very good in a lot of aspects, but probably good in a lot of other aspects too. But again, just because our president is our president, that's not how necessarily the country's run. It's more run by the local and state individuals, right?
Well, you could say that the left impeded Trump's ability to lead as president
for sure
the last 4 years. Right?
And I can fully say that the right impeded President Obama's.
But I think the right's going to impede Biden's ability to lead this next.
Well, as long as they don't win the Senate, as long as they win the Senate. Otherwise, it's going to be all Democrat controlled.
Right.
Which I don't like. I like the fact now, and I don't say it because it's all Democrat. I like it to be broken up. I like, have a president, have the parties represented in both. Does that make sense? So,
yes.
if the Senate is Democrat, have the House be Republican, and vice versa. It's checks and balances. It keeps anyone from going absolutely hog wild with crazy ideology.
Right.
In my opinion. And that's what a representative republic is about. We're not a democracy. Democracies are awful. No, they are. Because here's the best way I've ever heard it described. A democracy, a true democracy is two wolves and a lamb trying to figure out what's for lunch. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Two wolves and a lamb trying to figure out what's for lunch. Voting on what's for lunch. Voting on what's for lunch. What do you think's going to be lunch? The freaking lamb, right?
I think the lamb, yeah.
And a representative republic is the opposite, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what you have, or it's two wolves and a well-armed lamb voting on what's going to happen, right?
Right, yeah.
So you have the playing field evened out, because a true democracy, if, let's just say you have 51% of the country votes to kill the other 49%, in a true democracy, the 49% get killed.
Right.
I mean, that's how that works. A representative republic doesn't work that way. That's why you have electors. That's why you have different things. There's more checks and balances.
Yep.
So, in turn.
So speaking of, not to derail that conversation, but another thing that happened recently that I found interesting was newly elected Republican Dick Hinch, as a Republican who was elected Speaker of the New Hampshire House just a week ago. He was elected a week ago, and he just died of COVID-19 on Wednesday.
Yeah, right. So what happens now? They have a special election?
I don't know what they're doing now.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So, all right. So what we're going to talk, or what we're liking to talk about, is moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So
how do we do this?
I have some things. Now, this is, again, don't choose a team. Like, literally be an individual, right? And that's part of, we're tribal people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that sullies your mind because it's everything blue is good and everything red is bad. Republicrats and Democrats,
Well,
right? I mean,
but Bennett, people are too lazy to think for themselves. They just fall into a group that they aligned with, basically, and whatever that group says, they just kind of get in line.
Yep.
In my opinion,
that happens
very
lot.
Very few people actually think for themselves, and I think it's because I don't know why it is. It's just I very rarely ever talk to anybody politically, and they have their own unique ideas. It's always just aligned to the political party.
To the political
right?
parties, right?
Right.
Very little independent thought.
Exactly.
Or they just parrot what the media tells them is the line, right? Because that's a whole nother, the third estate, the third branch or the fourth branch of government is the media. And right now, overwhelmingly giving you the Biden line. The left's line. I mean, they're literally not giving you the whole story as mainstream media goes, right?
Yeah. Is there an actual news outlet, a mainstream news outlet that is bipartisan?
No,
that actually just
I don't
reports
think so.
on the news?
I don't think so anymore.
That's awful.
Yeah, exactly. It's you have like Fox News, and then you have, like the major networks. So you've got Fox, right? You've got CNN. You've got MSNBC.
CBS,
NBC, ABC.
Yeah.
They're all, except for Fox, they're left leaning. NPR should be completely down the middle, but they're not. So what ends up coming out of in the wash is that we're working off of opinion, not facts anymore. People aren't reporting. They're giving you the news with their own skewed spin, which they're their own confirmation bias, right?
Yep.
So very few journalists exist that just, it matters, like the way the things are written. Like, all right, so if language matters, it matters how it's written, right?
Yeah.
And you have to try and write it without the bias. Either way, this is all just nitpicky bullshit. Okay. So I'm just trying to give people the frustration and the idea of, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, whatever. But I promise you from the bottom of my heart that I run right down the middle.
Right.
I absolutely do. I actually I seek out like injustice, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like, I don't always pull for the underdog, and people are like, what do you mean Trump's the underdog? Well, he's piled on he's got everything against him. He does have 74 million people behind him, but the whole establishment, as in general, does not support Donald Trump.
Right.
And that's what I want people to see. If people are outside of the establishment fights against them. So it's actually our struggle is against the establishment as people of America. Because you have tons of bureaucrats, which are unelected, that make a lot of these decisions, right?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Well, how do you write this? Because a lot of people are talking about a potential civil war, right?
And that to me is it's madness, right?
Well, a lot of people believe that.
Well, they might believe it, but who's going to fight it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at it. And I saw one of the best graphics the other day, or a GIF the other day, that was, of one of the protests in like Portland or whatever, with all the people dressed in all black with umbrellas.
Okay.
Right? And and then the caption, actually, I'll read it. Let me find it. Simple enough to just do it correctly, right?
Right. Yes.
So there's a picture of like soldiers in Vietnam. Like, so this is the first one. It says, this is war. It's got Vietnam. It's got a guy running with 2 kids, right? A soldier running with 2 kids to safety, right?
Okay.
It might be World War II, actually, but no, it's Vietnam because he's got an M16. So he's running with 2 kids to save them, right? And it says, this is war, brutal as fuck, and you're out there in the middle trying to make sense of a world that no longer makes sense. You can attest to that, correct?
Yeah, oh yeah.
When children are dying, you can't. It will never make sense, and you will die trying to figure it out. Okay?
Yep.
So that's war, and it's brutal as fuck. Then there's a picture of, like, Antifa protesters with gas masks on, bike helmets, and umbrellas.
Okay.
And it says, this is not war. Thinking you did this, thinking because you did this you're ready for a civil war is ignorance at unimaginable levels. It's all fun and games until you watch the guy on your left get his head split open with a tomahawk, and you're next.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like, these people have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Right.
I mean, at least like in our last Civil War, you literally had people that had been at war still there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The American Revolution, the revolution here. Like, you had people that had been fighting in wars. Right? Like,
Yep.
why the fuck wouldn't you listen? Now we have a generation of, there's a lot of veterans that have been to war. Most veterans right now have been to war.
Right.
So why don't you look at somebody that fought in Afghanistan or Vietnam or Iraq and ask them, does this make any sense?
Right. Is it worth having a civil war on our soil? Right.
On our soil? Because people really don't understand what that means. I don't.
No, they don't.
They don't. Even, I mean, you have these 3%ers, these goons that show up with their assault rifles and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Bottom line is, I mean, there might be people that support them, but I'm not going to hang out with those guys. That's just stupid. In my opinion, that's ridiculous. Like, what are you showing up there for? Like, those, that might not be the truth, but this is my opinion. This is what pops into my head, and this is my podcast, so I can give you my fucking opinion, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
and I know you and I have had this conversation. Those are the guys that sat in the fucking fob the whole time. Those are fobbits that didn't get to fight their fucking war on the real battlefield, so now they want to make this one they're having some kind of inadequacy. They're the guy that walks up to you and goes, "Yeah, I would have joined the Marines, but I have a bum foot," or something like that. Like, go fuck off. Like, take care of your family, man. Why don't you look in the mirror and figure out why you feel so inadequate that you have to come out here with a freaking AR? And I don't care. I want people to own guns for this exact reason.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you start talking crazy like this, it's fucking crazy. Absolute insanity. I mean, literally, you're going to go out. The tribalism has to, like, I don't know, man. It's human nature, but we got to figure it out. Right? So I've got 10 things that I want to go over real quick. So this episode's obviously going to go a bit, but that's fine. What are we at? An hour.
About an hour, yep.
So we got time. So other people's opinions. This is something far too many people worry about.
Yes.
It's inherently problematic, as you can't change someone else's opinion. You can't. I mean, you can try, but that's an uphill battle. And everyone is entitled to their own opinion, right? Whether you agree with it or not. So you telling me that my opinion is incorrect and fucked up, we can agree to disagree.
Right, yeah.
Then if it's not, then show me. Show me why my opinion is fucked up. I mean, and I'm not talking about black people are bad, white people are good. People that are this are bad. That's not what I'm talking. That's racism, right?
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your opinion. I mean, people engage in incessant gossip and are unhappy with their own lives, right? So how many times do you hear, this is where I think it boils down to with this. Hurt people hurt people.
Right.
So because they're so unhappy with their own lives that they seek to degrade others. It's Jerry Springer. It's the Jerry Springer.
Exactly.
Oh man, that was a word that I used to say for that. The Jerry Springer effect.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the kicker is that when they do that, it leaves them just as miserable as they were before. Doesn't make them feel better to degrade others. So just shut up and look in your own mirror. Like this whole show is about self-reflection and introspection.
Yeah.
Stop caring so much what other people's opinions are and worry about yourself. Right?
Yep.
So that's number one. Anything to add to that?
No, there's a lot of things that I've actually read on this topic about how it's basically impossible to change somebody's mind or somebody's opinion about things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, literally almost impossible.
Well, it's because you're fighting against. So, like here, for example, right? You get somebody that's raised in a highly religious house, gets taken to church every Sunday, Bible school, Sunday school, vacation Bible school. Like that's me as a child, right? That's kind of like religion was kind of crammed down my throat, and I was led to believe certain things, right? And then,
but let me ask you one question before you go on.
Yeah,
it was jammed down your throat.
Jammed.
And
yes.
And what did you do instinctually?
Well,
you rebelled against it, didn't you?
Well, as a child, I believed all of it, right, because I didn't know any other way to believe.
But
right?
Once you had the ability to think for yourself, you instinctually pushed back against it.
Yes, correct.
Correct. Because us as humans instinctually push back against authoritarian stuff.
Right.
We just do. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're raised imagine anyone raised as a child to believe certain things. And you hear about how to believe certain things from essentially the primary influencers of your life, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your teachers, like whoever it is in your life that's primary influencers. They're leading you to believe a certain thing, and it becomes ingrained into your psyche, right? Now all of a sudden you're an adult, even though you've got the capacity to think for yourself. A lot of what you still believe as an adult is rooted in those early ways of thinking and being taught certain ways, right?
The indoctrination.
Right. A great book, I think you've read it too. A great book that I listened to it on Audible. It's called Education.
Education.
It's like
fantastic book.
It's a perfect example of what I'm just describing.
But
right?
it's also like it's the old adage. As a young person, you'll be more liberal and Democrat, and as an old person, you become a Republican. because thinking evolves, right?
Right.
And that's kind of
if you allow it to. If you allow it to.
But if you're closed off to it,
right,
you're just gonna. That's what education is about. That's what that's about. That book.
Right. And that's all of the studies that I've read on this is basically they're saying that to try to get into a conversation with somebody where you are trying to convince them to feel a different way or think a different way or have a different opinion than what they believe. You're not trying to just convert that one thought process. You're basically saying that everything that you've learned your entire life up to this point is wrong, and everyone that has been your primary influencers in your life up to this point are also wrong.
Correct.
Right? So that person now has to, in order for that person to change their mind to your way of thinking or to your opinion, they have to hurdle, they have to overcome that dilemma of they have to abandon their childhood education. They have to abandon the influences that their primary influencers have had in their life. They have to abandon all of that in order to even consider crossing the threshold of changing their opinion or changing their beliefs to be more aligned with yours. That's why it's so difficult, and that's why it's so comical to me to sit back as a spectator and watch people on social media go back and forth about differing beliefs, because they're both
literally writing dissertations.
Right. They're both sides of that equation, both sides of that coin, both parties in that argument are expecting the other one to overcome that hurdle that I just described. And we both know that is never going to happen, especially on social media, right?
But it can happen. Meaning, and the only way that it can happen is if you are open to it happening. So I change my opinion all the time on things, right?
Because you put yourself in a mindset to do so.
Correct. So that's what this is all about. Put your mind in its. Don't be so rigid in your thinking that you're not open to others' ideas. Guess what, man? It's a wonderful place to live.
Well, people aren't going to just wake up one day and say, you know what? I haven't been very open in the past. I decided today I'm going to, turn over a new leaf, and I'm now going to be open to new ideas. It starts with motivation.
Absolutely. Correct.
How does somebody change their motivation to want to?
And there you have it. You just said it. Whose responsibility is it? It's yours.
Yours. Right.
So the next thing that you have to give up in order to move forward. So we had other people's opinions, right?
Yeah.
Next is explanations.
Okay.
At one point or another in life, you're going to realize, and you and I talk about this all the time, at some point you're going to have to realize that a reasonable explanation to why something occurred the way it did, sometimes it just doesn't exist. Right?
Okay.
You can spend all the time that you want rehashing things in your mind, trying to make sense of a situation, but but honestly, you may never come to a realization. This is something that takes a lot of time and experience to realize, but once you do, it really can make all the difference.
Yeah, I call this the what if effect, and I actually wrote a blog post that's actually still on my LinkedIn.
Yep.
It's called have you ever heard about what if?
What if?
And it's this, when I first got back from deployment and I got out of the Army, I was plagued with this what if syndrome, I call it, right?
Yep.
I would lay in bed at night and think about all the things that happened, to me and to my soldiers on deployment, and the guys that were killed and the guys that were severely wounded and maimed for the rest of their life. And I would start playing this what if game out in my head. What if I had been chosen for that patrol instead of that guy? What if I had been the lead vehicle instead of the middle vehicle? What if I had left the fob 5 minutes earlier? What if I had not answered the radio when I did? What if I wouldn't have shown back up in my sector, my zone, when I did, coming back from the green zone? What if? And I would just what if the shit out of everything. What if, because my mind, the human mind, is designed to reconcile. Right? To make sense of things. That's what the human brain is designed to do. And where there's a gap, where that explanation is undefined, your brain seeks ways to close that gap in any way that it can. It has to reconcile.
Absolutely. Right.
And that's where you're talking about is at some point you have to just come to grips with the fact that
you can't reconcile everything.
Right.
And because you don't have control over a lot of it. And what if your current life and situation too? It doesn't have to just be past experience.
Sure.
What if I did, or it kind of correlates with the thought pattern of if I only had.
Yes.
If I do this, I'll be happy.
Right.
Right.
If I had a better upbringing, I wouldn't have ended up the way I did.
Correct.
If I didn't end up with abusive parents, I wouldn't have turned into an abusive parent as an adult.
Right. It's not my fault. It's not me. So that we get into this in a bit too. So
okay.
So the next one is expectations. Oh my God. Right.
Okay.
The sooner you stop expecting people to act the way that you want them to, the happier you will be.
Right. So I'll let you finish that one, but as soon as you said that, one thing that, like, you get 2 lanes that merges down into one, right? Like, who in the hell doesn't know the proper way to zipper to merge into one lane?
Right.
You zipper, right?
Right. It drives me
you
insane.
Alternate.
It drives me
you
insane.
Alternate. And so I expect if you are a driver and you are a licensed carrying American citizen, regardless of what state you are in, I expect you as a driver on the streets of America to know how the hell to merge.
Well, I've come to a realization with this though.
Yeah, what's that?
I learned to drive in the state of Connecticut.
Right.
We had to go through formal driving school.
Yes.
I don't know about you. You were in Nevada, right?
Yeah. No formal driving school required.
Right. No formal driving school required. Right. So we had formal driving school required. I learned that when you drive, right, and I know a lot of other people have, but it's state by state, man. It's different. This is the glory of being an American, right? So the state by state is different. So I was taught, and this just shows you education, right? I was taught that you drive in both lanes up to a merge point, and then you zipper and merge. Right. Well, New York State, where I live now, there is no formal driving school. They have them, but you have to pay for it out of pocket. Right. Now, actually, we had to pay in Connecticut, but it was a requirement. You had to have a certification from a driving school that you had done 120 hours. You'd done this, you'd done that, blah, 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 blah. Right. Yeah. Regulation. New York doesn't have that. I'm like, New York's one of the most regulated states in the union, but yet we have no formal requirement for driver education.
That's crazy.
But you can't get your license until you're 16 and a half. And you can't get your permit until you turn 16. So whatever. But every freaking work zone that I ever come up to in the state of New York, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, if there's a sign that says left lane closed ahead, everyone is slammed over into the right-hand lane, like a mile back. Right. And because I'm not waiting in that stupid fucking queue in that line, I am going to drive up the left-hand lane until I can't anymore, and then I'm merging into traffic at the merge point. Right. Correct? So, but literally, as you drive up the left-hand lane, people will jut out and try and push you try and stop you from doing what you're doing. They will literally sit in the left-hand lane and drive slow. I go around them. If I have to go into a ditch, I go around them because I won't. So I'm just saying this can be society too, right? You can think about this as a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know. But either way, people do this in life. Like people jump out in front of you and try and stop you, you know?
Right. And I think that's what you're talking about here in terms of expectations.
Right. So allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised by the actions of others instead of becoming disappointed when they don't follow through in the manner in which you thought they would.
Right.
You can only control your actions, not those of others. It is simply in your best interest to let people act the way they will without creating false hope. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean these people that are in the right-hand lane that jump out in front of you driving think they're like the police, like they're doing they're the justice in the world.
Right.
Because you're zipping by them and they're patiently waiting in line like everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? The world doesn't work that way, folks. You know what I mean? That's
the thing, right? My expectation is that everybody knows how to do this. The reality is even if they do know how to do it, they don't always do it. And so my expectations of people fall off the cliff relatively quickly when I'm commuting home. All I want to do is get home, and people are acting like an asshole. But here's the kicker, right?
Uh-huh.
As long as I allow that expectation to bother me, if my expectation of them is not satisfied, so they failed in my expectation of them, right? I've got two choices. I can either get upset, or I can just come to grips with the fact that they didn't meet my expectations.
And move on,
and here's the difference. I control the outcome of either scenario.
Yeah.
And I have done both. I have let that asshole affect me, and I have driven the rest of my 40-minute drive home and got home, and my anger and frustration
Spilled over onto the family. And now I'm fighting with my wife and my kids and kicking dogs. Just kidding. And you know what I mean? the Friday 4-day weekend safety briefing. Yeah,
so
right. Don't kick your dogs.
right. And it's because
Don't drink and drive.
I have the ability to control the outcome. And I chose, in that moment, to let that expectation influence my behavior.
Yes.
In a negative way.
Yes.
Right?
It's awful.
Right.
So let it go. Let go of your expectations, because your expectations of other people usually are unfounded. They just are. All that you can do, especially like take children, for example, you can just teach them the right way, right? Teach them the acceptable way to do something and let it go.
Just let them,
That's it. Trust me, I have 4 daughters that don't listen to a goddamn word I say. But you know what? It's kind of funny how now my oldest is 25.
Yeah.
And she has adopted almost every piece of advice I've given her.
Yeah, my son is 25 as well, and he recently sent a message to my wife and said, you know what? One thing I can say is that you guys did really well. Is you did a really good job raising me.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's no other confirmation in my mind that's worth it than to hear those words.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a parent, you're always wondering that, right? Did I do enough? Did I do right by my kids? Did I do enough?
And I also know that you're really good at not putting your expectations on your kids.
Right.
You don't live vicariously through them. I don't.
No.
I don't either.
Right.
It's one thing I've learned is to not put my expectations on my children. You can do it what you want to do. I give you the freedom to do. I give you, like I said to my 16-year-old the other day, I give you enough rope to hang yourself.
Right.
Constantly.
Here's
and
guidance.
You know what?
Now you got to go make the right decision.
But if you start doing
right?
dumb shit that's going to hurt yourself or others, that's when that rope gets snapped back.
Yep.
And then I explained to her why. Anyway, the next thing is the next thing to let go. Make mistakes you made in the past. How often do we dwell on this shit? The past is over, man. Bottom line. If you have done all that you can do to make up for your mistakes, I mean, maybe you haven't, so maybe this is why you can't let it go, then there is nothing else you can do at this point. If people throw this in your face, then you need to cut those people out of your life. We talked about this 2 episodes ago. Right?
Right. Yep.
It's as simple as that. Everyone makes mistakes. It's part of life. It's part of growing up. It's part of getting old. As you correct your mistakes and learn from them, then that should be all there is to it.
Yeah.
If you dwell on them, this is tantamount to trust, gratitude, and forgiveness, which kind of encapsulates this whole 10 things, right?
It does,
but,
right.
You gotta move on from the mistakes that you've made in the past. You have to move on. But you also need to acknowledge, and this is sort of the self-reflection and introspection part of this, you have to acknowledge that you made a mistake.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
You have to acknowledge that you made a mistake and then correct it, correct the action. You may not be able to atone for what you've done, But you know how you atone for it? Don't do it again. Because doing something over and over again in the same way and expecting a different result is not going to get you there.
Right. I think for me, one of the things that took me a while to learn is admitting that I made a mistake, right? It's just coming to grips with your own self and admitting that, yep, I made an error, I made a miss, whatever that is, right?
Yes.
So that's the first thing that I had to learn. But then the other thing too is I had to allow that mistake to teach me the lessons that it's designed to teach me, because that's the thing, is every mistake you make, there's a lesson to be learned. Even if you recognize that you've made a mistake, if you're not open to the lessons that it has to teach you, then you're not taking full advantage of the mistake. I mean, and the reality is you've already made the mistake. You can't change it. So you might as well take advantage of everything it has to offer.
And right? Sometimes that's truly an awful mistake. I mean,
right,
life-altering. But yet, people don't see that as a point for growth.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and we get into some more things that are very correlative with this in a minute. The next one is dwelling on heartbreak.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because it didn't work out with one person doesn't mean it won't work out with someone else. I mean, how often do we get stuck with that where you see, well, it's the proverbial angry woman.
Yeah.
Who all men suck, all men are evil, all men blah, blah, blah. Right? We hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. But we do this daily with other people. Like
maybe you hear that a lot.
And maybe. And at the end of the day, too, this is where things that go along with racism and bigotry. These are where opinions are formed from, right?
Right. And it doesn't have to be relationships either.
No,
right?
It could be all types of things.
Right. Heartbreak could be, you didn't get the job you wanted. You didn't get, accepted into the school you wanted. You didn't, whatever. You fill in the blank. Whatever that heartbreak means for you, you're going to be let down in your life more than once. That's just life.
I mean, God knows. Life is heartbreak.
Right.
But it literally is rather than allowing that heartbreak pull you down and harmfully impact you and your future, use those experiences to grow and learn about yourself. Again, it comes back to introspection, self-reflection. You are the center of your fucking universe. To make anything else the center of your universe, you're gonna fucking fail.
Right.
Or you're not going to be, you might not fail. That's kind of harsh. You're not going to fail, but you will not be your optimum who you are. You just won't be because you're living for something else.
Right.
People you meet in life come at the time they do for a reason.
That's true.
Don't waste your time replaying incidents over and over in your head, trying to make sense of them. This does go hand in hand with explanations too, right? Yeah. So, don't waste your time doing this, trying to make sense of these things. If your relationship didn't work out, it's okay. Take it as a lesson learned and carry that into the future.
Right.
So dwelling on heartbreak, I didn't get the job. I didn't get into the school I really wanted to. Oh, I didn't get the promotion I really wanted to. And then you start playing the blame game, right? So So here we go. The next thing is grudges.
Oh, okay.
There's no reason to actively resent another person. It doesn't harm the other person as much as it will harm you.
Right.
Wow. I say that so much. It's like a broken record. If you just listen to my 900 hours of podcasting.
Yes,
seriously,
exactly.
You'll hear me say it every goddamn episode. Why are you focusing your energy on someone that you don't even fucking care about?
Right.
Seriously. Do you really think you're wasting your valuable time concerning themselves? You know what I mean? Come on. It's one of the
'Cause
most
9 times
finite
out of
things
10
we have is time.
Well, 9 times out of 10, the person you have a grudge against doesn't even know it or realize it.
No, because, again,
So-
people only know what they know.
Right. Right. So why do you think people waste their time on grudges? Because it obviously doesn't make them feel better about a situation. So why expend that kind of energy? I don't understand.
You do understand, devil's advocate boy. Do you really think they're wasting their valuable time concerning themselves with your actions? Just let it be. Don't engage in malicious behavior. You are beyond that. Leave whatever happened to cause this tension in the past and move on.
Yeah. It's like my wife watches the, I call them murder, death, kill shows.
Yeah, murder, death, kill shows. Yes.
On ID,
Yeah.
ID Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got so many of these shows out now. They group them into like categories, like Twisted Sisters, and what's another one that she watches? It's called Murder Next Door or something like that. Well, one of them, it's like that. It's all stories about neighbors and their conflicts with each other, and you watch every episode and it starts out the same thing, right? They start out with cordial neighbors, and then one little thing happens, and then all of a sudden
Everything
there's that
escalates, right?
There's grudge, right? And it escalates until finally
Someone's going through a fucking wood chipper.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And every show is the same. That you can see
Right.
how that grudge effect allows things to escalate to the point where rational thinking is no longer
Goes right out. This is
Right.
the Trump derangement syndrome.
right.
This is
Right.
Clinton derangement syndrome.
Yeah,
This is Obama derangement syndrome. Seriously, folks, it really is. This all has to do with Jesus Christ. It's got to do with forgiveness.
right.
If you were raped as a kid, that's a fucking grudge, right?
Yeah.
That you're going to hold. The problem is, and I think we all know this, is like we know this in certain aspects of life, that if we hold the grudge, it's toxic. It literally is toxic to your body.
It festers, right?
It festers. It causes fucking health problems.
Yeah.
We know it does. We know these things. And if you need to know more about this, seriously, call me. I will show you study after study after study that shows you that not forgiving and letting things go and holding grudges will actually shorten your life. Bottom line.
Yeah, it's like that untreated wound at the bottom of your foot that turns gangrenous.
Yeah.
And then
the next thing you know, you have to get your leg cut off.
Right.
So
Yes.
stop ignoring these things. I mean, bro, we've talked ad nauseum, and this is what I do for a living. Besides the businesses that I have, what I do for a living is I help people look in the mirror,
Right.
because I have done this so much on myself and do it every day for myself. You have to look in the mirror. I mean, I could go down I could play the victim card so hard that I'd have you crying.
Yeah.
At this episode, but that's not what this is about. This is not competitive victimhood. So don't get verbal diarrhea and go out there and be like, well, I had this and this and this. I mean, I could lay off the list of shit that's happened to me that I had no control over. And if I held that grudge, one of them, all right, so explanation. I told you all, was it 2 episodes ago, 75 hard. Right?
Yep.
How it ended up being 133 days hard for me. You know why? Because I literally had a recurrent memory from years ago that I had not dealt with in therapy. And literally it was about being abused as a child. Right?
Yep.
I never quite knew if it was real, sitting there knowing that it was real, but yet not wanting to address it, not looking in the mirror and actually approaching it, right? And dealing with it in a way that I deal with my problems now. So turns out it was real because I fucking dealt with it. I actually looked it in the face. I approached the person that abused me as a child, and I questioned them. And I went through this hell, basically, for about 3 weeks, right? Personal fucking hell of recurring, having now the image, knowing that I was abused and raped as a child, right?
Yep.
Notice how I'm talking about this on a public forum.
Right.
Right? Because you have to deal with this shit, people. It's not the deep, dark secrets not hidden in the closet. It doesn't help you. All it does is help somebody else. Okay? I missed a workout that day because I literally felt like I couldn't get out of bed. Because I was so fucking riddled with depression, anxiety, and everything. Because I opened up the can on this event. Right? And this is why I had to start over. But the next day, I got up off my ass and I freaking did what I had to do. Right? Character. That matters too. So,
right.
The grudges will fucking ruin your life. Let it go. Let it go. All right? So the next thing. Failing to appreciate what you fucking have. Gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you think is missing in your life, well, if I have this, I'll get to where I need to go.
Yeah.
Try and focus on what you are so fortunate to have now. You have amazing kids. You have an amazing wife. You have a good job. You have decent health. You have a gym membership. You have cable TV. Maybe you have an iPhone 10 or 11 and you're happy about it. The cup of coffee that you drank this morning.
Yep.
Because trust me, there's plenty of people in the world that don't get that shit every single day. All right?
Yep. The warm roof over your head, the electricity.
It is far too easy to look around at the people you surround yourself with and become jealous at what they have. This is social media getting in on it too. Everyone's life looks perfect through a lens, through Instagram or Facebook or freaking whatever, because nobody puts forth the shitty stuff that happened. Like, I was in bed the other day because I couldn't get out because I was having flashbacks of me getting raped. Nobody talks about that. Nobody puts that out on Instagram, right? But how many people do you think that happened to? Millions of people.
Yeah.
Millions. And whether they've dealt with that or not is how they move on with their life. On top of post-traumatic stress and all these other instances of getting their legs blown off or whatever. I mean, these are some of the people you have to look at, right? And how they live their life with meaning because they have gratitude.
You mean not everybody that I see on Facebook standing in front of a Lamborghini and a multi-million-dollar house is really theirs?
Yeah. No. Oh. I can't believe that shit. The shit that happens, it's unbelievable. Like, literally one of the things, oh my God, it even happens with these protests, right? Like, literally Instagram influencers or Facebook influencers or people, they literally like pull over, jump out of their car, put their mask on, and then take a selfie at the protest. And then drive on their way.
Away.
See, we're at the protest. We're at the protest today. Look at me. Look at me. I mean, we all do it, but you have to be able to siphon through the bullshit and the real.
Yeah.
Right? So be grateful for the things that are most important to you and relish them instead of focusing on what you believe to be missing. It's really simple. You have made it this far so you wouldn't, if only makes sense that you have everything that you need.
Because here's the thing, right? The more you can focus on and relishing in the things that you have, all of a sudden the list of things that you want start to get much smaller,
right?
Doesn't it?
I have my kids make, when they make requests, I say, is that a need or a want?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean you don't get some of your wants. You just don't get them all.
Right.
That's not life. Or make your mission to get all of your wants.
Exactly.
Without killing people.
Right.
or forcing your bullshit politics down their throat,
Yes.
or their bullshit ideology down their throat. Whether, so it's really, that's how it is. Next one is excuses. Oh my God, excuses.
Which one is this? What number?
8.
Okay.
You have to
Excuses.
seize each opportunity that is presented to you and immerse yourself completely. Do not make excuses, because you only will hinder your own personal progress and prevent you from achieving your goals.
Well, this goes along with, in my mind, this also goes along with accepting your mistakes.
Exactly.
Because that's the first thing that I do when I make a mistake, and I prevent myself from really taking advantage of learning the lesson that mistake has to present, is making excuses for why that mistake happened, right? Anything to deflect the ownership that I have to that mistake.
Yes.
That's the first thing that I go through, the checklist of excuses. Well, it wouldn't have happened if this was, if it was this time of day, or maybe if this person had followed through with what they said they were going to do, or if I hadn't lost power, or,
yeah.
I mean, there's always, you name it, right? There's an unlimited number of excuses that we use to justify why we've made mistakes, or why things that have happened to us happen to us.
Excuses are just like opinions, too. Everyone has one.
Right.
They're like assholes, and they all stink.
Yes.
To work hard, take advantage of all the possibilities, because that is the only way you will garner the largest and most beneficial results. Stop making excuses if you want results.
Right.
In things that you do. Well, I don't know how to build a website. I don't know how to take good pictures, or I don't know how to, work. Motherfuckers, you literally have the collective knowledge of the human race at your fingertips. As long as you have internet access, you have the collective knowledge of the human race. All of it at your fingertips. There's no excuse. Man, how many YouTube videos have you watched on how to do something?
Oh, ton, man. That's how I learned how to fix shit in my car.
That's how you learn how to do your own brakes.
Yeah, man.
And guess what? I did too, because you sent me the video. You're like, hey, dude, do your own brakes.
Right.
Or whatever. Things like that. Hell of a lot cheaper. I'm just saying.
Doing your brakes.
You even taught your daughter how to change her brakes.
Yes, it is. Doing your own brakes is way cheaper unless you do them wrong and you crash the shit out of your car.
True story.
Then
it's more expensive. But
right.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You literally stop asking other people to answer the questions of your life and go answer them yourself.
Right.
Period.
Well, that's the thing, is you got to stop waiting for that magic person to stop by your life.
Yeah.
And give you all the answers to, you know what I mean?
Mentors are great. Mentorship is great. But like we've said ad nauseum, you truly can be your own mentor if you use the tools that are available.
Well, I'm interviewing right now to fill a position on my team at work, and I've been doing phone interviews, and one of the questions that I've asked every candidate is, what's the current or most recent professional development book that you've read? Because if people are unwilling to develop themselves, I got no time for them. Because at the end of the day, I can provide assistance to my directs, but if my directs aren't willing to learn on their own, for their own sake, for their own career, for their own benefit, for their own education, their own growth, then what the hell good am I to them? Or what the hell good are they to me or the team or the company, right? So I don't know, man. That's just me. Maybe that's asking too much of somebody, but I mean, at the end of the day, I want people on my team that are willing and active in their own personal growth and development.
I mean, we've said it before a million times. God damn it, I say that all the time. It's like a broken record, seriously. Like, there's 4 things that employers want, and that's one of them. You're trainable. Yeah. Your ability to be educated.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway. Insecurity is number 9.
Oof.
By this time in your life, there really is no reason to be insecure. Come on, right? Don't consume yourself with the worry about what other people think of you. Harken back to number one. Chances are they're way more concerned with themselves than you. I literally deal with this every single day with my wife. No shit. Yeah. Because of what she's going to wear to work. I look at her and I say it continuously, but yet she still has a clothing crisis every day. Nobody gives a fuck what you're wearing. You do, maybe, but don't think of it in aspects of that encapsulates a whole bunch of things. Nobody cares what you wear because they're more concerned with what they're going to wear, right?
Right.
As long as you don't look like a dirty rat bastard.
Yeah.
I mean, she's beautiful. She's going to be hot no matter what she wears. Bottom line. Seriously. Sweatpants and sweatshirt, hot. Doesn't matter. And most men would agree with me. So, I'm literally, what? Well, it's about how I feel. Then wear fucking clothes that make you feel good. Why is this an option? Just put on the clothes. Nobody cares. Don't do it for others. Do it for yourself. So I think I've broken through on that. But she would always look at it through the lens of, does this look okay? Yes, you're fucking gorgeous. Right? But that's not what it was about.
Right, yeah.
So the insecurity is not about you. It's about your opinion. It's what you think others think of you.
Right.
So everything that you have done up until this point is enough. You're enough. It has gotten you to this place in your life. Confidence is a state of mind. And if you believe you're a good person with good values, then you should be enough to build your confidence. Insecurity is something that holds people back more than anything else. And it's a damn shame because the person making you feel the most insecure, oh my God, who do you think it is, Eddie?
You.
Yep.
That's right.
What the fuck?
What do they say? We are our own worst enemy.
Absolutely. Right? Insecurity. Leave it behind. And rounding it all out, dealing with drama.
Oh, no.
The only thing dealing with drama will lead to is anxiety.
Yeah.
Why are people drawn to this, Eddie?
I don't know, man, because you look at, even TV or any kind of form of entertainment.
This is what we're stuck in right now.
It's about drama. Everybody loves the drama, right? And I don't know why that is, but
we're both guilty of it too. I'm not.
Oh, sure.
We're not holier than thou. I get caught up in drama. I have 4 daughters. How do I not get caught? I got no choice. But I really have to take a step back, take 3 deep breaths, and be like, I'm not involving myself.
How easy is it to get sucked?
It's like because again,
at work,
it's human nature. Right? It has to be. Oh, did you hear? Did you hear?
Exactly.
But I honestly don't understand. I do, but I don't. You need to surround yourself with people who are constantly pushing themselves to be better. I think that we do that pretty regularly at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
If they don't cause drama.
Yes.
So if you're consistently surrounding yourself with negative people, this will only hinder your progression. Bottom line. Yep. You are the sum of the 5 people, right?
Yes, exactly. You need people in your life that can challenge you in a positive way. Right?
Mentors.
Yeah.
People that have been there. People that are successful. If you want to be successful, you got to surround yourself with people that are. Right. Again, you don't take financial advice from someone that's declared bankruptcy 3 times. Well, you can now if they've become millionaires. And because they actually learned from their mistakes.
I forget where I heard this, but I heard somebody say, if you're the smartest person in the room,
you're in
the wrong room.
Yes. You absolutely are in the wrong room. Yep. That's the truth.
And not to sound like an asshole, but remember back in the day, we were doing like different mastermind groups. We were hosting mastermind groups.
Yep.
We were also members of mastermind groups. And I remember being on this one mastermind group, and it was about, small online business, like what we were doing with, podcasts or products or whatever the case may be. And it was just a social media online mastermind group kind of thing. And they were great people. There must have been, 15 people in this mastermind, and we'd meet on a weekly basis on like Google Hangouts or something. And I was on the mastermind for probably 2 months, every week for 2 months, and got to know the people pretty well. But one thing that I ended up realizing was every time somebody had a question about, online business, whether it was how to create a website or how to create a lead magnet or how to create an email capture page or how to, like, all these things, right, that we ended up learning along the way, I found myself being the only one in the group that was able to answer the questions.
Right. So, I'm in the wrong fucking group.
Right. And it dawned on me, it wasn't that I was better than them. I was further along in that journey than they were.
You just brought up a very key thing that I want, and I want you to reiterate on that.
Yeah.
You aren't better than them.
No.
You just have the knowledge that they don't have yet.
Right. I was where they were like 2 years before.
Right.
And I realized that as much value as I was bringing to them in the group, I wanted, not to be selfish, but if I'm going to commit, time every single week to be part of a mastermind group, I want to be able to get something out of it too, and not just be the encyclopedia for everyone in the group.
Yeah, I'm not your personal Google.
Right. So
and that's what you end up becoming.
I had to tell the leader of the group, I was like, I love being a part of this group, but this is not the right group for me. Yeah. And I told everybody in the team that I had to leave, and everyone was cool with it. And I finally went and found a mastermind group where I wasn't the smartest person in the room, and there was people that were further along in the journey than I was, able to provide me with guidance of things that I needed help with, right? And again, I think the best place to be, and I use mastermind groups as an example, but it can be like friendships or work or whatever
even
the case
family.
may be. Right. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but you don't want to be the dumbest either. I think that finding somewhere in the middle, right, where you want to be able to reach down and help people up that are going through what you've already gone through, but you want to be able to tap on the shoulder of somebody that's already been through something you're trying to go through. So I think the best room to be in, or the best place in your life to be, is right in the middle. You want to be able to help, but you also want to be able to be helped at the same time.
You don't want to be in a bucket of crabs.
That's right.
Because
just keep pulling you down.
They keep pulling you down. It's the truth.
Right.
So get away from those people. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but people say that. That's an excuse.
Right.
You always have a choice.
Absolutely.
You always have a choice who you spend your time with. And you can be like, oh, well, they're my family. I'll tell you what, man. I haven't, I'm adopted. But I haven't seen my adopted father in years. I still talk to him. But you know what I mean? It's just,
right.
You have to make choices sometimes. And that sometimes, again, it's simple, but it ain't easy.
That's right.
And saying goodbye to some people in your life could be we talked about this in one of our previous episodes since our release. If that's your spouse,
right.
I mean, do you have an actual partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't. Maybe it's only drama. Maybe all you do is fight and then have great make-up sex. But guess what? That's not life, man.
Yeah.
You gotta be a team, a partnership. I have a failed marriage. I have a starter wife.
Starter wife.
It didn't go well. It went very badly for her and I.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me that was the victim. We were both horrible to each other in a lot of ways. And at the end of the day, it had to go. And you know what? Maybe you're there now. There's no shame. again, it's not easy though, especially if you have kids and that shit.
Sure.
That shit sucks. It sucks.
Right.
But don't hold yourself back because you're afraid of what might happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think back to all the drama you have dealt with in your life and think about if it really has any effect on your life now. The answer to that question is usually no. And the time put into dealing with that drama is just not worth it.
Right.
It's like literally like a weight being lifted off you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it, man.
Can you give us a recap of the 10?
So you've got things to let go of in order to move forward. And this is how, again, I wanted to highlight that it's not us as a country. We need to move forward as individuals. And then that helps the collective. It just does. It takes a village. Or whatever bullshit thing you want to say. But at the end of the day, if people, if you're just blindly being a sheep, you're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem.
That's right.
So, again, other people's opinions, let them go. Explanations, let them go. Expectations, see ya. Expectations of others. But you can also apply that to yourself. Mistakes you made in the past, don't dwell on them now. Dwelling on heartbreak, which goes hand in hand with mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Don't hold grudges. As hard as that may sound to let go of, this ain't Hatfields and McCoys, folks.
Right.
Let it go. Because you might have a grudge against somebody. You may have a grudge against somebody. You don't even know why.
Right.
It's been so long that you don't even know why. Let it go. Forgive. Failing to appreciate what you have gratitude. Gratitude, folks. Excuses, leave them at the door. Everything is an excuse if it doesn't make you move forward. If it doesn't give you beneficial results by making that, it's an excuse. Insecurity, leave it. See ya. Dealing with drama is the last. Remove yourself from the situation.
Right.
Literally stop. Say, I'm not going to be involved in this. I love you, but this is not productive for anything or anyone. Pointing fingers, whatever the drama is, let it go. So it's really about letting it go, right?
That's right.
And having trust, gratitude, and forgiveness for yourself and others.
Good stuff, man. I like those.
Yeah.
Oh, and I got our last segment of the week is around our archive. Let's go back and listen to some flashback episodes. And this week, it ties really nicely into kind of what we're talking about. It's episode 17, Veterans and Meditation.
Ooh,
Does
baby.
it help? So let's take a minute, Bennett, and listen to a little clip of Veterans and Meditation. Does it help?
Why do you do it, and when did you start, and how did you come to this point in your, like, how did it come to be? You didn't just wake up one day and be like, I'm just gonna scratch lines in the sand with my Buddha rocks and whatever.
Well, it actually started because my therapist, I was telling you, he actually works. He's a Vietnam vet, and he was a tanker in Vietnam. Actually got out of the military. He's a West Point grad, got out of the military as a major, used to teach at West Point. Saw some shit in Vietnam a couple of times. So this is a guy that can relate to any issues that I have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was kind of key. And it was kind of like one of those things, like I really realized that veterans helping veterans is the key because of him.
Yeah.
But he also does a lot of, I guess he works at he does teaching at the Zen Center in Syracuse, New York, actually. they do like Tibetan bowls and all kinds of stuff. So he just kind of like introduced me to meditation. Simple meditation at first. And it's not even like people start out all wrong, because they think that they have to like clear their minds and do it for like an hour, or whatever. It's all or nothing. But when I started meditating, what it's about is you kind of use it as mental exercise. Okay. So I used it where literally I started for like 3 to 5 minutes.
And we're back. What do you think? That's a throwback, man. That was way back in the day.
17, bro.
17.
So what's kind of funny, though, is I went back and listened to a couple of our older episodes because we're switching them over to Anchor, right, as we had brought up earlier. A lot of the shit we're talking about, we were talking about then, too.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
Are we a broken record? Are we not evolving?
I think we are. I just think that, we've grown a lot in the last several years, right? And so a lot of what we used to talk about was theory. Now,
I think it's actually,
we've
actually proven that it works in our lives and where we're at, I think. So so I think what we've, what is that called? The proof of concept. I think we have at this point, we have full proof of concept.
Right.
Folks, what we're talking about isn't bullshit.
And I will be honest, we're better at it now than we were back then.
For sure.
I'm talking about like the podcasting stuff. We just got a better rhythm and we can feed off of each other's banter and jackassery much easier than we could. Well, I think we've always had a way to connect on that level. But yeah, we've been doing this a long time, and I think our collective experiences, right?
5 years.
I know. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that wraps it up, man. That was pretty intense. We talked a lot today. Talked about the new changes to our website. Don't forget to buy us a coffee. What's that link again?
Oh man, you would ask me.
Boom, throw you on the spot.
Throw me on the spot. It's oh my God, I should have it right here, right?
Yeah. And Anchor, we're moving everything over to Anchor while he's looking up that link.
Oh my God.
We talked about Chapter 4, the Wolfhounds of About Face. We talked about the Army-Navy game, Go Army, Beat Navy. We did that yesterday, hands down, very handily. Kind of a total,
See, I'm part of both teams, so I never lose.
I know. You never lose.
That's right. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Bottom line. So, buymeacoffee.com/change your POV. Again,
very cool.
buymeacoffee.com/change your POV.
That's all we got.
And all I do is win. So Nick Ripplinger, my business partner in that's how I know something good happened, because he'll always send me the link for the video to DJ Khaled. All I do is win.
Really?
And I'm like, all right, so what? So that's like my signal to call him and be like, all right, so what happened? And he'll be like, oh, we won this contract, or we did this, or we got this, or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
You know what I mean? Because and that's been going on for, I don't know, a few years now, where I'll just get this random text with, all I do is win, win, win. You know what I mean? It's so funny. Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Winning. All right, man.
Winning is good.
Good talk. Talk to you next week, man.
All right. Take care. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Change Your Point of View podcast. Pull up a chair and get a seat at the table and be a part of the conversation. Connect with us over on Facebook at our closed Facebook group called Change Your POV Squad. Let us know what you think of the show, good, bad, or indifferent. We'd love to hear your thoughts.